walked in, I could have died. Long blonde hair, big brown eyes. That girl really took your breath away. She looked and said, no work or play. All night long I'm up there on the stage, missing my cues, feeling my age out of my head. Slid on over, said what she said. If you got, I got the time, there's this soul, all I want to do is rock and roll. Said why me? I'm no ladies' man. All I do, best I can. Ain't no red dot, king guitar. I don't drive fancy car, but if you got the inclination, I got the time. There's a certain fascination on my mind, and I ain't got no interest in your soul. All I want to do is rock and roll. Lips, a voice of gold, gravel whisper, I was told, ain't no time to pick and choose. You got the rhythm, I got the blues, but if you got the inclination, I got the time. There's a certain fascination on my mind, and I ain't got no interest. Soul, all I want to do is rock and
roll. Well, you must understand when somebody's village is invaded by about 600 or 800 Harley Davidsons roaring around, some of them can be a bit upset about it. But we're lucky up here because we find that the majority of the locals, they just love it and they come back just to see the event. We have more and more families coming up every year. The kids enjoy it, obviously. They get to ride on various different bikes and see the different people.
This is a 1940 model, and these bikes tend to be around 42 vintage because they're largely ones that were left by the Americans after the war. This is the machine which they used for their dispatch riders. It's a 750 side valve, based on a model that Harley introduced in 1929, and in fact it's one of the most loved of the old bikes they've ever made. This one's interesting because it still has a couple of features which are uncommon. The first feature is the front wheel stand, which hinges from the axle back behind the mudguard, and the old days a lot of these were thrown away and now they're quite collectible. And also, being a 1940 model, it has an old-style clutch release arm, which, for those that are really into 45s and old Harleys, will notice it's down by the gearbox next to in front of the kickstart. It's an old throwback to the original 750 model. The later ones were of a pressed-out metal design. And it's one of our Dutch visitors this weekend. And the bikes are very popular in Holland. They have their own name in Europe, in Northern Europe, where they're called liberators, because of course they were with the liberating armies. But in America and in Britain we call them 45s, which is their cubic capacity in inches, which is the way Harley Davidson always referred to their models. It's also still got the original, what we call beehive tail light, which is a feature that throws back to the 30s. And I think it's only Harleys that have ever had bikes with the licence plate above the tail lamp. It's one way of being sure you've seen a Harley ahead of you. And of course on the left side is the traditional old style hand gear change and foot clutch, which was the standard way Harleys were made right up until the beginning of the 50s. And there's a lot of people believe that unless you've had a 45 you haven't really had a Harley. It's something that you just got to have at some time in your life.
Well, this is a modern version of an old style bike, as you can see. I've tried to make it look as old as I can, because to me this is what a Harley should look like a jukebox on wheels, really. A lot of people have got very strange views about people that wear black jackets and ride bikes, but you'll find you come to places like this, everybody gets on with everyone else. You're just out for a good time.
99% of the locals love it. I think what happens now, that it's been going on for so long that the 1% that don't like it go away for the weekend. But no, they think it's great. Certainly the local shopkeepers, they enjoy the extra revenue. The people on the caravan park, they enjoy the music to a degree. And the spectacle of it all, it's a nice change.
Yeah, this is in fact an 88 Heritage Softail, which started out life as a basic Heritage without anything on it whatsoever. As I bought in London, what I wanted to do was to make a bike that looked like my old Electroglide that I had before. So I bought old shovel head parts and I just really adapted them to fit this. So it looks not unlike my old Electroglide, but this is a much better machine. This bike actually wants to get up in the morning.
I just love Harleys and that's it. I couldn't possibly have anything else.
No.
This is my husband and this is his bike here.
It's a 74, 74. That's about all, really. It's just beautiful, isn't it? Eh? And it really. You've got to own that. I mean, it's majestic and it's fast, elegant. No. There's nothing extra special on it, no fast bits. Just a lovely paint job there, look, I did myself, because I'm very clever. Had the seat all etched out there, but it wasn't as good as I'd expected. Little disappointed. And I had this mud splattered on here, especially yesterday on the M25.
I mean, I take the bike each year to Poland in July. I've been like the last 4 years, from before the wall came down and a certain amount of freedom was obtained, you know. And it's really good. I mean, they have a Harley club over there which is older than ours. Czechoslovakia, they have a Harley club which is 60 years old, 20 years older than ours. There were 6 of us who went. Myself on this when it was new, a friend with us on a very early knucklehead, and 4 shovelheads, and we had a very memorable trip then when only 2 of us actually made it. The others broke down in various ways in Berlin and such like, and we just left them strewn all over the continent, you know, having to make their own way back. But it was great. I'll catch you later, Paul.
This is what many people, many purists, consider the only real Electroglide. When this model was dropped after '84, Harley Davidson made a version of the Tour Glide which had this headlamp assembly on, which they used to keep the name Electroglide going. This is becoming quite collectible, in fact. Though in their history they've been chopped and changed, there's now quite an interest in keeping them back in their old touring guise and keeping them pretty much as Harley made them.
Yeah, it's a 1955 Punhead. It was the rebuild from Fred War in 1964. Unfortunately, my father bought it and he died approximately 17 years ago, and I've had it ever since. It's all original from when Fred built it, apart from the Electroglide top box and the radio what the wife bought us. the comet tops, and everything else is the way Fred did it. It has a rigid frame with a side post suspension on the back. The old type oil filter on the outside. And as you can see, it's a pan head.
The front end here, which is original on this bike, is the design that Harley-Davidson reproduced for the Heritage. The rigid rear end of the frame, which gives that classic low look, is the one that they've reproduced with their hidden suspension under the gearbox, so allowing the soft tails, hence the name, the soft tails, to have their rear frame look like it's a rigid style, like the 50s. Even the old oil filter that Eddie pointed out is available as a reproduction to put on bikes which it wasn't originally fitted to. And I suppose if I had to pick one look from the Harley's history that has been the most popular, most sought after, I would really say it's the Hydroglide. Perhaps the only thing in addition to make the package complete would be the old hand shift and foot clutch, which was for many decades a traditional Harley feature.
Fred wanted to buy it back for his collection because he knows the history of it. It was an ex-Belgian police bike when he brought it into the country, and he rebuilt it for my father, and he knows the whole history of it.
So in the old days, that was the only way people were getting Harleys, was through the Belgian police.
That's right.
And American imports that servicemen had brought in.
Exactly.
There's a lot of history just in this one bike. These cylinder heads are where the name comes from, pan head, because the rocker covers here are shaped like pans. The previous bike, the knucklehead, had a strange contraption of a cylinder head which Harley had evolved for their first overhead valve, and that the irregularity of it prompted that name, knucklehead. Panhead, very clear and simple, a very collectible engine, very clean and attractive. The external oil filter here, mounted remotely like this until the days when Harley redesigned it to fit inside the tank. In its day, perhaps thought of as a bit of an eyesore, now quite a feature. This old timing cover here, where the timing gears are fitted underneath here, going to the generator mounted at the front. That's an old look that was lost when they went to alternator engines. And of course, the old buddy seat, the twin seat here, which goes back to 1933 in its design. This sister spring here, which would be unhooked from its mount on the mudguard and clipped to the back of the seat to give you extra spring for a passenger. The rider springing being in this, almost like a single front fork running down the frame here. That feature goes back to 1912. This is what Harleys are about. Harleys are history. They're like a museum on wheels. This old toolbox goes back to 1940. You get chrome reproductions now. You'll see those on many chops and modern bikes. In fact, there's a dealer here selling a kit for the most current models, the Softails. He does a kit to fit this old 1940s toolbox to your modern bike. The old panniers here, this was the first hard pannier that Harley-Davidson used. They used to have traditional leather ones, throw back to the cowboy days. These ones, which made of a sort of fiberglass type material. This was a feature of the 50s. I think they came in about 52, somewhere about that period. They eventually were replaced in 63 by the swept look fiberglass ones, which are still fitted to the bikes today. Harley's theme always has been, if it works well and it looks good, leave it be. And that's why it appeals to Harley riders. They're people who like history. You can't separate it. Harleys are history. Because Harley designed what we call the mousetrap clutch because before 52, they still had a foot clutch on this. And the European bikes, which mainly meant English, all had hand cable clutches. And this was their way of making the heavy foot clutch operable with a hand clutch. The proper name for it is the hand clutch booster. And the